guys, Celestia here. It's a gray and dismal rainy day here where I am, and I thought what better time to do part 6 of the story about Dorics' funeral than on a gray and gloomy day. As I said in the previous section, part of the story, whatever you want to call it, that normally elves don't make a big deal about death. They're normally buried in a sacred grove and families can go and visit. But this was against Doric's wishes. So after leaving Doric's home, Flar wanted to take some time to process what had happened. However, he could smell food being cooked for the feast. He could hear people gathering for this feast, and he knew he really didn't have much time. He knew he needed to go home and get changed out of his everyday clothes into something more appropriate for a wake. Let me describe Flar's home a little bit for you. Flar's home has a central room, and then all of the other rooms are off of it. Kind of like the rings of a tree, if you want to say it that way. They have a private bathhouse, which is wonderful. They have a big, huge copper tub. A fire can be built under it, water can be warmed, and they can bathe. Flar knew he didn't have time to have a bath. He knew he was going to have to brace himself and wash himself in cold water like he has so many times before. He goes into his home, walks down the hallway into the sitting room, and there's Fig sitting there. His heart buoyed up a little bit, and he thought, oh, Cecilia's awake. She said, no, Father, I'm sorry, she's not awake. It's just gotten so oppressive in there, I can't sit in there anymore. He said, what do you mean? She said, Father, I've been so concerned about her, I called the healer. And he said, well, that was a good idea, Fig. Don't ever doubt yourself, dear. What did the healer say? She said, just what I expected her to say. There's nothing physically wrong with her. I said that. Yeah. She said, now I know I have to get dressed and go to the wake, but I'm not looking forward to it. She said, when I sent the guard to go and get the healer, he said, I told him that he could go and pay respects to Doric if he wished to, because we would need to go to the feast, lead the processional, etc., and he would need to be here with her alone. Father, he's not too crazy about that idea at all. And Flar said, well, then we'll relieve him of his duties. Everyone is going to be at the wake. Cecilia will be in no danger here. She said, do you really think so, Father? Wouldn't this be the opportune time for someone to do something against her, knowing that we were preoccupied with the wake? He said, I'm sure your mother can rig up something. She's not without her abilities, you know. Fig says that's true. So Fig goes off to get dressed, and Glyneth comes home at that point. He said, I'll be with you just in a second, dear. He said, I need to go and speak to the guard. She said, yes, of course. So he goes and he says to the guard, you can leave. He said, we're not going to be needing you right now. He said, I think it's more important that you are at the wake, paying your respects to our seer. And he said, I really don't mind, Chief Flar. He said, well, that's not what my daughter said. He said, well, okay, I'm not crazy about the idea of sitting here doing nothing. She's right. I'm not crazy about being here alone. Sure. But I understand the importance of it. He said, do you? Do you really? He said, yes. He said, no, you can go. He's very well. Everyone, after he leaves, everyone gets dressed appropriately. They look wonderful, elegant, of course. Glyneth is in a beautiful full-length silvery gray gown. Flora is in dress breeches and very shiny brown boots and jacket. Fig is in, she's wearing green tarward, light green top, green pants with breeches as well, black boots and black belt. So they go to the Great Hall where the festivities are underway. Now some people might think that celebrating this way is disrespectful. In my opinion, it's not. It's celebrating that person's life rather than dwelling on their death. It's remembering the good things, again, rather than dwelling on the bad. Of course, people are going to talk about the bad things, but when all is said and done, it's a celebration of the person's life. Fig and her family walk in, and people notice and they start to get up, and Flara's like, and they didn't take a table at the very front, even though there were spots there for them. They were going to take a table at the back, just not to interrupt anybody's festivities. The Lion comes over and says, oh no, you must sit at the front, Flora. We left spots for you and Fig and Glyneth. You are our chief. He said, I just didn't want to interrupt anything. He said, oh no. He said, we've actually been wondering where you are, and we've been waiting for you to come. Very well. During the process of the meal, with the wonderful food that had been cooked by everyone who could be there pitched in, those who were taking care of the pyre came in last, even after Falar's family. And he had already had words with them that when he gave them the nod, the wink and the gun, that they were to go and see that things were absolutely ready. As I said, during the meal, people would get up and say things about Doric, remembrances, wishes for her final journey, sorrows of them not having a seer in the clan anymore. While all of this is happening, Cecilia wakes up. She gets up out of the bed and actually remakes the bed, which is a little unusual, don't you think, for someone who's blind? She makes her way past the sitting room into the hallway that leads to the front door, goes out the front door, and is, happy. Gets to the bottom of the stairs and disappears into the woods like a wraith. It's getting on for dusk, time for the pyre to be set. They wanted to do it at sunset, Pilar gets up and everybody stops talking. He said, I'm going to keep this brief. He said, I really don't have anything to add to what's already been said. He said, I know that if Doric were here, she would blush and would say, oh, please. She was not one to take praise easily. I don't know whether that had to do with her duty as our seer or just her personality. But she was my friend. She was our friend. Our family. I want you all to know that you are my extended family. I care about your well-being, and not just as chief. As Valar, I care about your well-being. I want you to know that I'm approachable if you need me. If you need anything from myself, my family, my immediate family, please don't hesitate to come to us. If you want to talk about your feelings of death, specifically Doric's death, if you have doubts, questions, he said, feel free to come to me. Feel free to go to any of the elders. Elthanor was about to stand, and Galan was close enough that he grabbed a hold of her and dragged her out. He said, don't be stupid. This is not the time. He said, Valar's not telling you to do this now. You want to talk to him about these things, approach him by yourself. Don't drag the rest of the elders in on this. Don't drag people in this who aren't in it. He said, have a brain, Elthanor. You've already lost your position as elder. Do you want to be outcasted? She said, he can't outcast me. He said, yes, he can. If he sees you as a threat to the clan, to his family, yes, he can. Buy a brain, as the kids would have said. In a huff, she goes home. She has no desires to go any further than with this. She wanted her time. She wanted to make a spectacle of herself. And Galan stopped her. Valar nods at the men at the door. After Galan has... Valar knows nothing about this. Galan was so quiet and quick. Like an elf. The men take off. He said, my friends, my family, my clan. He said, it's time for the processional. It is time for us to go and see Doric off on her final journey. He stands, puts his hand out to Gleneth, and she takes it. Puts his hand out to his daughter, and she takes his hand. Just then, Eldred says, I would consider it an honor if you would allow me to escort Fig in the processional, Chief Valar. Valar says, of course. So he puts his hand, he takes his hand from Fig's and puts it in Eldred's hand. She looks at him and she said, oh, Eldred, thank you. She said, I appreciate it. He said, I'll always be here for you, Fig. Always. She says, I know. She said, we do need to talk. But it has to, he said, no. I know. Don't worry about it. He said, we have all the time in the world. She says, okay, thank you so much for understanding. pats his arm. Pilar says, "Are we ready?" Fig says, "Yes, I'm sorry, Father." He said, "Don't be sorry. It's fine." He said, "Come, everyone." He said, "The lanterns are at the door." He said, "I don't think we have enough for everyone." He said, "But get one while you can." Birds were singing outside their nighttime songs. You could hear bees, animals rustling around in the woods. Fig called some of the magical creatures to the processional. Pilar, of course, was, "What are you doing?" She said, "They have the right to say goodbye to Seer as well." She said, "I only called the ones that Dorics had interactions with." He says, "Okay." They get to the sacred grove, and it just looks amazing. There are flowers everywhere, petals everywhere. There in the center is the pit where the pyre is, and resting on the top is Doric, covered with a snow-white cotton sheet. There are flowers and herbs all over, along with all of the gifts and tokens that everyone had left for her. Off to the side, there's also, sorry, I know it's itchy. I'm going to kiss a fool. There's a small fire, and the torches are stacked there. The torches are long branches of the trees that are wrapped in fabric and dipped in pitch so that they will burn hot. Pilar steps forward, and he said, "Doric, I don't know why you have chosen this way." He said, "Fire is one of the things that's always been the most fearful to me. One of my secret fears. Death by fire is, I can't imagine anything worse, but you are already gone. So we're actually just burning the vessel that your soul was in." He said, "I wish you were here to explain to me your aversion of being buried, but that's okay." They hand him a torch. Suddenly, the whole forest is just holding its breath, except for the fireflies, who've come out in full force. They're circling around everyone's head. Not enough to cause any problems, but the little things are there. Pilar takes the torch and lights the pyre. Nods to the other men, and they also grab torches and continue to light the fire. Now, I don't know about you, but I would think that that would not be the most pleasant place to stay. Smell of burning flesh. So everybody left, except for Pilar. He told Glenneth and Fig he would be along shortly. He was just not ready to leave yet. He'd been there for quite a while. It'd gotten dark. He was saying some prayers for Dorics' journey through the veil, and finished and looked up and was startled to see the black unicorn standing on the other side of the pyre. from him. And from around his flank came Cecilia. The two of them walked over to him. Cecilia rested her hand on his arm, and she looked at him and she said, "Hello, my friend." And that's where we're going to end part 6. There are things coming, as I keep hinting at. One of them has come. Black Unicorn. It will be explained in part 7 what is so special about the Black Unicorn. I hope you're enjoying this series. I like to call it my video story, because that's what it is. My son, however, says it's a podcast, but I always thought a podcast was something that was live. What do I know? Let me know if you think that you wouldn't mind the sections being a little longer. I've been trying to keep them to 20 minutes-esque, as not to be too boring. But if you would like them to be a little longer, I can put a little more detail in. I want you to know that this is now the 4th time I've done this. Something keeps happening, and I have to delete it because, anyway, I finally think I got it out, and finally I'm happy with it. So my friends, until we get together the next time for part 7 of the story of Fig,